With this important forum, I was expecting all right, so acknowledge a few persons who are in the house. Of course, the Executive Council, who is sitting to our right and to your left. I want to acknowledge the Executive Councils, the special invitees, special guests, and of course, you are public. Today we are embarking on the theme now on data accessibility, technology, and innovation. It's the first of its kind. We're doing this partnership between CompTIA and ISOC. With this forum, I would assume that we have a lot of IT professionals in the audience. So I'm sure that a lot of you would have been familiar with CompTIA. If not, I'm sure that today you'll learn a little bit more. Professionals and allowing them to get some form of certifications. I would also assume that many of you might not know about ISOC and what they do, but I'm hoping that today's forum will shed some light on what they do and how they encourage innovation, information sharing, consumers to build trust and to have without no further ado, my name is Martin. Welcome, and I'll be your moderator for today's proceeding. At this time, we'll welcome Professor Dennis as we open this session.
Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean. UCC Internet Society Jamaica Public Seminar under the theme, as you have heard, now data accessibility, technology, and innovation. I welcome you on behalf of the UCC executive team, some of whom will be joining us soon. Dr. Winston Adams, Mrs. Geraldine Adams, Professor Bernadette Warner, who is here, Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, Mr. David Wan, the UCC Group Finance Director and member of the UCC Board of Directors. We collectively offer a very special welcome to the Honourable Fayval Williams, the Minister of Science, Energy and Technology. So allow me to acknowledge also Mr. Trevor Forrest, Chair of 876 Technology Solutions, Mr. John Preston, Senior Engineer, International Center for Nuclear Sciences, UWI, Mr. Shernon Osepa, Manager, Regional Affairs of Latin America and the Caribbean, Professor Emeritus Robert Lancashire, Mrs. Natalie Rose, who is IT Department Head of ISOC Jamaica, Mr. Otis Osborne, UCC Lecturer and Chairman, ISOC Jamaica. Mr. Martin Welcome, who welcomed us, and Mr. Lyndon MacDonald, Member and Director. Other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, faculty, staff, students, members of the media, a hearty welcome to all. Jamaica Public Seminar represents another element in UCC's continuing mission-driven efforts to prepare students to become exceptional business and community leaders, innovators and scholars in a caring and intellectually stimulating academic environment where all community members are valued, respected, and challenged to embrace integrity and social responsibility. As we work to establish place in the higher education sector in Jamaica and beyond, UCC offers a wide range of programs designed to cater to the changing needs of modern organizations, to engage young traditional students as well as working professionals, and to enhance lifelong learning for adult learners. The breadth, depth, and assured quality of our academic programs are central to UCC's positioning. These include an increasing range of locally developed programs, as well as those offered in association with international university partners, inclusive of master's and doctoral degrees. UCC's international partnerships enable wider student access to excellent academic programs and the ability and the opportunity, rather, as an institution to more readily respond to changes in demand for higher education. Under the theme mentioned, now and beyond data accessibility, technology and innovation, this seminar comprises the launch of the UCC CompTIA Partnership Program and the Internet Society Jamaica Chapter Public Seminar, which UCC chairs. You will be engaged in 2 panel discussions if you've had the opportunity to see the program. This will be provided in more detail there. But these to fundamental internet-related issues, the CompTIA standards, the Internet of Things or IoT, blockchain technologies, and cybersecurity. The launch of the CompTIA program for spring 2020 and potential candidates that UCC will be a training and testing center for all CompTIA's exams. This program will include 4 packages with courses including A+, Project Plus, Network Plus, and Linux Plus. UCC is a stakeholder and hub chairmanship of ISOC Jamaica. Let's just note the objectives of ISOC Jamaica, including participating in and leading initiatives for the expansion of community access and infrastructure development, encouraging innovation and building consumer trust and confidence in the use of the Internet. These objectives are fully shared by the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, which is delighted to be engaging and launching this partnership. Thank you so much for your participation in these University of the Commonwealth Caribbean today. Please join me in applauding once again the Honourable Fayval Williams, MP, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, as she takes to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do I have to do that again? Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon. Let me begin by acknowledging Professor Dennis Gale, President, University of the Commonwealth Caribbean. Let me acknowledge as well Ms. Jamaica, Mr. Leonard Wade-Wiz, CompTIA Director for Latin America and the Caribbean. And I see on one of your panels later on someone from my ministry, Mr. John Preston, Senior Engineer, International Center for Science. And I'm sure that is going to be a very good presentation. So let me just say again, a very good afternoon. To join the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, UCC, and the Internet. You host the ISOC and UCC CompTIA seminar under the theme, Now and Beyond, Data Accessibility, Technology and Innovation. Today, we are here to celebrate, among other things, Jamaica's membership into the Global Internet Society, ISOC. Ladies and gentlemen, as you probably well know, we are seeing unprecedented, fast-paced, and revolutionary changes as a result of the adoption of technology. Jamaica is on a transformational journey. Information and communications technology is at the heart of this change. Our National Development Plan, Vision 2030, positions ICT as an enabler, a tool to attain developed country status by the year 2030. We're cognizant of the significant role that technology plays in our growth and development, and having a robust policy and legislative framework as we move forward. In an increasingly connected world, where devices outnumber, technology powers many processes and data is the new gold, cybersecurity and data protection are of paramount importance. As a government and an administration, we are well aware of the need to safeguard the data of our citizens and our country. To this end, we're building a modern legal framework to meet the needs and earn the trust of all the stakeholders for the security of our collective data. And so our data protection bill, which is currently before a joint select committee, seeks to usher in a new paradigm and establish a uniform, robust, and clear framework with respect to the protection of people's personal and sensitive data. In this new regime that this bill will usher in, we, as the citizens of Jamaica, will be given new rights pertaining to data. And just let me say to you, in that new world, we will all be known as data subjects. These new rights, just to give you a few, we will have a right to know of the institution that's collecting the data about us, what is that data that they have. And they will have an obligation to provide it to us. Of course, there are for journalistic reasons. In that new regime, we will have the right to know who has, and the institution will have the obligation to tell us. Additionally, we will have the right. Data has been transferred outside of Jamaica, and the institution has the obligation to tell us. We are almost at the end of that process, and we will begin a significant communication with the citizens of Jamaica so that we know what these rights are, what these new rights are that the Data Protection Bill, when it becomes an act, will give us. In terms of cybercrimes and data breaches, we're doing more online today than ever before. And while the connectivity increases the ease of doing business and communication, it makes us increasingly more vulnerable. Cybersecurity is considered as one of the most profound challenges that confront global governments. And here are a few overpowering facts according to Ernst & Young Global Information Security 2018-2019. 6.4 billion, that's billion, not million, 6.4 billion false emails are sent worldwide every day. The average cost of a data breach is more than $3.4 million US. Locally, I understand that Jamaica lost a lot in 2016. Bank of Jamaica for 2018, in the Jamaica's 2018 Financial Stability Report showed that for the January 2018 to September 2018 period, there were 62 counts of internet banking fraud in Jamaica, $2 million. And in just 1 month, there was a total of $10 million in losses. As we strive to improve our productivity, to become more competitive, we need to learn from local, regional, and international experiences to prevent further losses while stimulating innovation, creativity, and productivity. American States, through its Inter-American Committee Against Terrorism, has been working with the ministry to implement an early warning system with the installation of a security information event management network. This network will, among other things, enable the ministry to provide alerts as on the pillars of our cybersecurity strategy, namely technical measures, human resource and capacity building, public education and awareness, and the legal aspect of it. During the month initiatives, I learned that trafficking in human has its legs on the internet. That is where young children are enticed to to upload their information on the internet, and the conversations continue. So the threat is real. Jamaica has been making steady progress in upskilling of cybersecurity personnel, strengthening of institutional capacity in private sectors, strengthening the legislative framework, and leveraging the support of regional and international partners. It is an imperative of this government to ensure that the country's capacities and capabilities in cybersecurity are augmented in a whole-of-country approach, having regard to the significant investments that are being made to increase access to ICT and the intentional move to make government more accessible through initiatives such as GovNet, which is a secure wide-area network communication infrastructure to interconnect ministries, departments, and agencies in order to facilitate shared services. We have GovMail, or we're putting in place GovMail, which is a common platform for government email, the pilot of which is expected to be rolled out by December of this year. There's GovTalk, which is a single unified communication platform, ability to accommodate up to 250. The establishment of community access points, Wi-Fi in public spaces, and the provision of tablets. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a part of a growing digital revolution where connectivity is the order of the day. Encrypton, Internet of Things, and I'm sure you know that means everything is connected through embedded devices to the Internet. Machine-to-machine learning, artificial intelligence, in which computers make these have and will become commonplace. The Internet Society for every person on the planet. Internet of Things devices offer endless opportunities to improve productivity, economic growth, and quality of life. Think smart cities, self-driving cars, and the ways connected medical devices can monitor our health. The potential growth of Internet of Things is virtually. And that's why I spent a few minutes talking to you about cybersecurity and about data protection. Because in this new world in which we are entering, there will be a lot of information collected about us, much more than there is right now, and we ought to be protected in the law. We ought to know what our rights are. Important event today, without iterating that with this much connectivity comes great dangers. We all have to be more accountable and vigilant as we traverse and your online presence. Strengthen our systems, reskill and upskill our people to meet the demands of the coming age. Ladies and gentlemen, the future is no longer. In fact, it is already here. And recently, I was at an event at JPS, Jamaica Public Service, at which they opened their innovation center. I said to them, you know, we have a tendency to think that big data and all of those things are outside of Jamaica, but they're really here. When you look at the data that the utility company collects on a monthly basis, and if it gets greater connectivity, it can collect all kind of data, you know, on a minute-by-minute basis. I mean, you're creating big data, huge data, right here in Jamaica. So I challenge us all to play our part by continuing to encourage innovation so that we may grow as a people, country, and region. My commendations once again to ISOC Jamaica Chapter and UCC on this timely initiative. I urge you to continue to facilitate the dialogue surrounding issues and establish best practices and strategies to foster our growth and development in the area of technology. And before I close, I just want to offer apologies for speaking and then leaving. I wish I could be here longer, but it's at 1 o'clock. But I'd already committed to this event, and there's no way I was going to disappoint. So I'm here. So if you see me leave, that's the reason. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Trevor.
Fayval Williams for the insights as to what she's doing, and as well as her ministry in terms of developing policies to ensure that we are protected, ensure that we know our rights, and of course, know that while there are great gains, there are great losses. At this time, before the minister leaves, appreciation for attending our seminar and to enlighten us as to what the ministry is actually doing. Thanks.
Right. On behalf of the Internet Society Jamaica, we wish to extend to you this token of appreciation for the time taken out of your busy schedule to be with us. Open door for the Internet Society of Jamaica.
Thank you very much. And yes, I do have an open door, always open.
Okay. At this time, I know we're running behind schedule, and it's so befitting that as the minister speaks and encourage us all about data security, cyber security, us being as data subjects, we also need to understand that we have the right to know who is actually gathering our data and what they're actually using the data to do. At this time, we're shifting things around a bit. At this point, we'll ask Mr. Leonard Witt, Director at America and the Caribbean. We'll ask him to come now and give us a few words on what is.
Easier. To clear up confusion, the last name is Wadowitz. And if you could spell it at the end of the session, then I'll give you a hearty handshake and a pat on the back. The reason CompTIA is involved with UCC, and you heard about the launch of their new CompTIA program in spring 2020. This is very critical. It's critical in a number of ways. Back in 1995, when CompTIA launched its first certification, we were the first entity of any kind to say there's a lack of skilled workers in the IT industry. CompTIA A+, which is still around today. And we continue to give annual reports about the lack of skilled workers, not only in the United States, but around the world. And it's not a secret here. It's not a secret anywhere. However, no one seems to have a plan. Business points at government. Government points at business. The data subjects point at everybody. And at the end of the day, there's never a solution. And Jamaica, I will tell you, and I don't without if this program starting at UCC will only be the second tertiary institution in Jamaica that's going to have a CompTIA program in its curriculum. The reason I say this is that everyone talks about the lack of there is no lack. It's here. CompTIA has a plan. CompTIA is the only global technology association, and we have developed a skills development program that is required by the United States agencies. It's required by tens of global IT companies. It's required by many governments around the world. Most recently, Brazil has a mandate. We're working daily with the Brazilian Governmental Training Institution because they get it. They understand it. They have a problem. We have a plan. We don't need to reinvent any plans. The problem is everyone wants to create something instead of using what exists. It's here. And I really want to thank Natalie and the administration here for having the open minds to accept the CompTIA program and understand how it fits. And I want to congratulate you on that. So let's back up the truck a little bit. What is CompTIA? As I said, CompTIA is the only global technology association. It's the only one. There is no other. There are regional and country associations that deal with regional country issues. CompTIA has global in scope. We're working with the governmental bodies of the EU. We're working with governments in the EU. We're working with governments in EMEA. We're working with the South African countries. We're in Asia. We're in Australia. You got me here. We have a global focus, and it's only focused on the IT, the technology industry. We have advisory councils in artificial intelligence. We have advisory councils, and any business and government can join. It's not a big deal. Join and participate. We want you to. We aren't influenced by any governments. We aren't influenced by any businesses. If you go to the CompTIA website, CompTIA.org, any logos from and we are guided by the technology industries in the United States and around the world. Right now, there's a trade mission that CompTIA put together going to Chile and Brazil, focused on space, on developing businesses of space-oriented companies for whatever they're developing satellites, developing products to be manufactured on the moon. That trade mission is happening right now as I speak. So CompTIA is for just about anybody here. I understand we have a nuclear scientist here. Well, guess what? We do touch that. We have software programmers here. We are involved in that with our artificial intelligence. I invite all of you, Google CompTIA.org, and I also invite you, contact me if you have any questions or you'd like to learn more about CompTIA or skills development. My job is to see the young people here who want to be IT professionals. My job is to see you, and my job is to help the existing IT professionals enhance their own careers. So thank you very much, and once again, thank you to UCC for allowing me to come and participate.
Thanks again, Mr. Leonard. Whether I hope the name correct this time. What a perfect marriage. CompTIA and UCC. Of course, their IT programs which at times persons do an IT degree, and after doing that degree, you have to go and do certifications. Now we're hearing that the CompTIA programs now being incorporated in the IT programs. So you can now do the programs, get certified while doing your degree. That's wonderful. At this time, we want to Dr. Adams, who just stepped in, as well as Dr. Wong, all protocols observed, as well as to those persons who are just coming in as well. Without no further ado, we'll be hearing from Miss Natalie Rose, as she'll tell us a little bit more about ISOC and what they're doing. Miss Natalie Rose.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you having an informative session? Yes? All right. Now, thank you for coming in for the launch of Internet Society Jamaica Chapter. This is very good that we are actually hosting our first launch here at UCC, that is our stakeholder. Now, assume Flow Digicel turn off the internet for an entire week. Your life seems to be disrupted, right? You feel like something in you is missing, right? Okay, that is where Internet Society plays. We, as a society, decided that no disruption of your internet should ever happen by either government, politics, or any form of telecommunication. Right now, persons are online. We have 7 billion persons in this world. And out of that 4 billion, 50 billion emails are sent every single day. How I know that? Statistics. They keep track of everything you do on the internet. Google Analytics, and there are other search engines that does that. Now, speaking about social media, 95 million photos are uploaded by Instagram every day. So actually your life is actually run by the internet. All right? So we have to keep it open at all time. Now, we have a mission. And the mission is, how can you benefit in the use of the internet? It starts with you. Our mission for Internet Society is that the internet is for everyone. It's not for the government. It's not for the large businesses or corporation. It's for you and me. It starts with you. And if you can become a member of auto, there's so many things that you can do. Regulating the policy framework that we have, setting up policies. There are so many things you can do. Right now, the key issues that Internet Society has is that we try to make sure there is trust on the internet. You don't be afraid to say, should I put my data on it? You're protected, your data privacy is protected, and your rights. Everyone should have a right. And that's what Internet Society actually advocates for. Another thing is to improve on the technical issues like cybersecurity. Do you know that 85,000 and more websites are hacked every day? So we have to put in different mechanisms to secure you and your data. But it all starts with us here in Jamaica. I'm not talking about the Caribbean or the overseas companies or places. It starts with us here. And to start here, you need to become a member of ISOC Jamaica. It's not only for the profession, but students also can become members of ISOC Jamaica. So, also advocate for openness. Openness for politics, for technology. Right now, the internet is always evolving, and it evolved based on new users and technology. What is happening with technology nowadays is that you can use your your handheld device to find out what's your heart rate. Now the devices can tell you where you are, your position. You can even go on the internet using your glasses. 10 years ago, you couldn't do something like that. You might say that is science fiction movie you're watching. So it's happening. Most persons are on WhatsApp. 5 years ago, it was Skype. What next going to happen in the next 5 years? Holograms? So you just say something to your hand, okay, dial home. And you see a person comes up and start talking. Okay? So those are where technology is going to reach us, and we have to be prepared for it. But we can only prepare for it if because everybody is on it. Even people who said that they can steal all your information. Okay? So I'm going to leave it at there. And I'm hoping that when you finish this seminar, you'll get something informative, and you will be asking the persons outside, how can I join to become a member?
Or should I ask, who doesn't use the internet? The internet is now a part of our everyday lives, eh? All right, so we have learned a little bit about the CompTIA. We have learned about ISOC Jamaica. And now for this next one, the discussions a little bit more. We now want to have a panel discussion where we'll deep dive a little bit more into data accessibility. We're going to invite our panelists to basically take the podium. Of course, first on our list of panels is Mr. Veron Baker. Now, Mr. Veron Baker's experiences in applying technology to solve agricultural issues started 8 years and livestock from farms in Jamaica. Veron close interaction with farmers who have shared their challenges has provided insights that help to shape the incredibly leverages blockchain technology to provide alternative credit scoring to underbanked farmers in Jamaica. Let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Veron Baker. Our next panelist is Mr. Christopher Owie. Hope I got that name correct. Now, Christopher is a technology enthusiast with focus on driven business continuity, orchestration. He enjoys working with the teams that will contribute to his overall growth and development, whilst simultaneously impacting those who have the pleasure of engaging and achieve their best. Let's welcome Mr. Christopher Howe. Mr. Christopher Howe. Also, we have Dr. Jodian Jones. Dr. Jodian Jones is a PhD in Old Dominion University. She is a public affairs practitioner who enjoys helping individuals and organizations solve their most complex communication problems using machine learning techniques to accomplish this. Let's welcome Dr. Jodian Jones. And for this session, we also have Mr. Trevor Forrest. Now, for our second panel. At this time, we'll welcome Mr. Gary Campbell, who will be the moderator for this session. But before that, we want to welcome Mr. John Preston. Right. So Mr. John Preston is the senior engineer and reactor manager at the International Center for Environmental and Nuclear Sciences. And this is at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. He has been with the institution for over 40 years, so I'm sure he has a lot of knowledge he can impart on us. During which time he has been working and developing irradiation and counting systems for neutrons activation analysis and the storage and analysis. In addition, archival frameworks for efficient storage of all CompTIA reference data, including processing strategies required for these data, and his current activities surrounds encouraging the adoption of open data policies for institutions and entities that generate scientific data and the development of open source platforms for their management. Let's welcome Mr. John Preston. And at this time, we'll also welcome Mr. Gary Campbell, who is the Vice Chairman of the ISOC Jamaica, this open session.
Thank you, Mr. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. So in the interest of time, we're going to get right into this particular panel. All right, so you have already been introduced to the panelists. What I'll have each of them do is to give a brief talk on the topic, 5 minutes each, and then following that, we will take your questions, and I too perhaps will have questions, and we'll try our very best to have you leave here in a very informed position about data accessibility. So I will start with, all right, let's start with John, and then we'll move right across to my left. John?
Afternoon. Hello? Yeah, afternoon. Today I had a small presentation which and I'll just keep it brief. It really speaks to access to data, but in relation to scientific information that will become extremely necessary in the 21st century. You know, global change due to all sorts of forces. A lot of people don't realize just how stressed the Jamaican environment is. And as we look to development, it's going to become very important for us to harness our knowledge of our experience and what's happening out here. And while this is happening now it's not really happening in an organized way, and the internet provides the possibility to do, to help in that regard. So let's just skip a lot of the blurb. Basically, what you're looking at is and you therefore have to look not just at the information, but at the patterns and the trends as you move from data to information to wisdom. And the two things you really want to look at are context and aggregations. Context defines what is it you're talking about, and the aggregations allow you to move from single events to understanding trends and patterns. With a context, data has little meaning. So you have a nice night sky, but you're not really seeing anything. But with a little bit of additional information, you start to see, oh, there are various constellations there, and so you're already just a single event that you were looking at that you thought was it. Actually, and aggregations, as we call it, help us to understand the patterns and relationships, which will give us a sense of not just, okay, the event happened, but why is this happening? What can I do to either enhance it or prevent it? And aggregations are really difficult nowadays. So back in 1800 BC, everything that was known about the astronomy was carved in a piece of stone. Everything that 90, already it started to separate. You had a paper about astrophysics, and the data that the collection was made off of was on a separate plate. In 2000, you have another paper, but actually the 4 bits of info that came reside in 4 different continents. And so information that is no longer in one place. You don't just go to a library down the corner or the library in the developed center. It's all over the place. And so you really need to have to look at that. So it's the mix of access, all the bits and pieces, along with, as it's termed, metadata, data about the data. So how do we go? The thing is that in these types of problems, the solution is all the other things. And I think I've broken it into 3 steps. First, we need to accept and embrace the idea that everything is global and we need to have access to information about us. And I'm directing this to individuals, to entities, to communities, to groups. It is those bodies which will advocate and get the thing going. There's enough information out there in Jamaica from a number of projects over are really active and have made the biggest impact is where individuals or communities or groups have advocated that they need this thing and that they will sustain it and grow it. 2, you need to accept the and maintenance of the places where the information will be stored. We call it digital repositories. Some people say it's the new digital library of the future. But in Jamaica, we haven't accepted that. We still feel quite comfortable in providing a lot of high-speed access to suck info from abroad without really understanding that the information that's start collecting and marshalling and curating the info that we already know about us, because that's where the gap is. And then we need to start to engage potential data providers and data users. And start to look at what is termed metadata schema. How do you organize it? How do you label it so you can search it and cross-reference it and things like that? The storage organization across different entities, across different regions, etc., etc. Access policies, some of which are real in the sense that it's not everything. Even in open data, you really still need some things which are restricted. But there are others, and we need to start that conversation to understand in our context out here, given our environment, what is, and it doesn't have to be cast in stone to start, but you need to start to have that. You pick the low-hanging fruit, and you do the ones that you can agree on and build consensus. Because in the end, that is, I think, the big stumbling block over the years to get this thing going to its conclusion, is that we haven't really looked at the issues. It's either been data providers who want to organize better or data users who don't have it and just complain that they don't have it, and the whole thing needs to really be organized. And the Internet Society of Jamaica is a great advocate now to, I think, to do that. And these are just a list of, a small list of various projects which already exist. Some are over 20 years current. So there's more information being gathered every day in Jamaica. The joke is that sometimes when the next project comes on and the consultant the data from a repository abroad than from the local stakeholder, as they call it. So I think it's really that we need to understand this is the 21st century. It's not 1900 or anything. And the basis for that, just like the basis in 1905 was to have a nice building. New age is to have a suite of digital repositories which, again, build these trusted digital sources. Because, you know, in Jamaica, trust is not something that comes easy. But it's the basis for a lot of things in development, and therefore you can't step around it. And that's what I have to say. Thanks.
All right, thanks, John. So we'll save the questions until the end of the talks. So next, Dr. Jones will take the podium. All right, so she's still there.
Hello, how are you? So thank you so much for inviting me to share with you today. While we wait for my slides to be loaded, just a little bit about me. Very passionate data scientist. What this all spells out is that, yes, I'm a nerd. Okay, so still waiting on the slides. So in the meantime, let me just start. Who here can tell me what data science is? Anybody? Any takers? Not all at once. Nobody? Okay, all right. Well, I guess now I have to do my job, right? Okay, so data science is essentially the intersection between computer science, math and statistics, and domain knowledge. Right? Well, what does that all mean, right? That doesn't tell us much. Okay, so I will break it down for you. So data science essentially starts with a problem. Without a problem, you really just, you know, messing around Python and R and whichever other tools you decide to use. So you need a problem, whether it's a business problem or a research problem, right? And from there, we acquire the data, we clean the data, we choose our models or appropriate models, and then we build our model, test and evaluate, and then present these results. What does all this mumbo jumbo mean? We're essentially finding a solution to a problem and communicating that. So in essence, we're all data scientists already, just didn't know that. So why is it important to pay attention to data science now? Anyone can guess? Previous speakers spoke about that. What's that? Okay, yes, exactly. Right, so we're all interconnected, all right? So almost every device we use is connected in some shape or form, except maybe our toaster oven. Well, that might be coming. There might be a smart oven soon. But everything, so from our Fitbits, our Apple Watch, our smartphones, our laptops, every time you watch Netflix or you watch YouTube, you know, you go on Facebook, you like something. So all these little clicks and shares and uploads are being tracked, measured, and mined in some shape or form, right? So why is data science important? Because you don't want to be this guy. Who's this guy? The frustrated computer programmer who's trying to code every single line for every single new piece of data or information that's coming in. So this is where data science comes in. It takes out all this tedium, right? So basically what we want is to build models that can adjust to this new data that's been coming in every microsecond, every millisecond of the day. So this is why data science is important. It takes the tedium out of manually coding 500,000 lines of code, okay? So let's demystify a few buzzwords. I'm sure I've used about 100 already, all right? So data science is the field of study, the overarching field of study. Within this, we have artificial intelligence, which is basically trying to make machines as smart as us, right? Okay, and then subsumed underneath that, we have machine learning, which are basically the techniques to achieve the outcomes that we want. And then we have deep learning, which is basically machine learning on steroids, which basically use neural networks, which mimics, you know, this is where we're getting into whole neuroscience, and we get real nerdy now. So we basically build these vast networks, neural networks that mimics the way human brains think. And we need tons of this. So typically, deep learning framework, you usually don't see this on your personal computer. We usually need, you know, a faster processing like some GPUs, or, you know, I use Google Colab personally, which, you know, use a virtual network for this virtual framework. So three uses of data science, right? The three main. Let's start with the bad. I like to start with the bad news first. So the first way our data can be used, as some of our speakers just mentioned, you can use it for bad intentions. So you've all heard of phishing attacks. You know, you've all heard of data breaches. So yes, believe it or not, there are some very scary, idle people lying around just waiting to capture your data and use it for ill-intended purposes. This is why, one of the reasons why cybersecurity is extremely important as we step into this new frontier of data. Data science can also be used for social good. So one of my favorite organizations is Google AI for social good. Google actually invested approximately $25 million to support organizations that want to solve challenging national problems that are really difficult to solve without AI. Challenges such as deforestation or you know, in some cancer trials. So these are all very important problems that we've been tackling for years, but up until recently, you know, they've become a lot easier to solve because of these new technologies. So one of the most common uses of data science, which, you know, I'm sure most of us have heard, is for basically business outcomes, to increase profit, to increase or improve customer experience, to keep your clients happy, all right? So perfect example of this, which I'm sure we all use, is Netflix. So every time you like a movie or dislike a movie, Netflix algorithm adjusts and say, hey, you might like this one. You might like these movies instead, or these TV shows. You know, I notice you like romantic comedies. Try this out. So, and it keeps you coming back to Netflix, right? So it keeps you renewing your monthly subscription. So where are we heading with all this? So we're now in an age of basically the comparative advantage of problem solving, humans versus machines. So obviously there are things that humans do better than machines, and obviously there are things that machines do better than us, right? Artificial narrow intelligence. So whenever you hear people talking about AI, this is what they're referring to, right? So artificial narrow intelligence, an example of this is Siri, or Cortana, or Google Assistant, or when you upload photos to Facebook and they identify who this person is, right? So these are all examples of artificial narrow intelligence. So where are we heading eventually? We're heading to artificial general intelligence. The reason why you always see a picture of this robot and these abstruse writings anytime you Google artificial general intelligence is because we don't have it yet. We're getting there, but we're quite not there yet. We have not reached a stage where computers can supplant everything that humans do. Or have we? No, I'm just kidding, guys. No, we haven't. But we're getting close. So meet Sophia. This is Saudi Arabia's first robot citizen. Sophia is probably one of the most advanced robots that we have so far. She can mimic human emotion. She can, communicate. These functions and actions are being programmed. So we have not reached the stage where a computer can just completely, autonomously think, feel, and act as humans do. So if you'd like to learn more about this, I've left a few links that I found helpful in my presentation. There are lots and lots of, one of the wonderful things about data science is that a lot of the frameworks are free. All right, they're open source, so you can download and play with them and tinker with them, all right, without cost to you. So I encourage all of you, if you're interested, go ahead and start hacking. If you have a project that you like help working on, you can also reach out to me. Thank you very much.
All right, so Varun Baker is our next speaker, just to put in a plug for him. So Varun was very instrumental in Jamaica put together its open data portal. I don't know if that's something he wanted to be public knowledge, but it's out in the public domain, Varun. So I don't know if you want to take that and run with it, but it's your turn.
Yeah, man, thank you. Good, that's good data, Gary. Yeah, man, get it out there. I'm a fan of that. Afternoon, everyone. All right, so my name is Varun Baker. I run a company called Farm Credibly. We're focused on access to finance in agriculture. Now, I started getting into applying technology to agriculture over 10 years ago. And since then, I spend a lot of time thinking about data, right? And one thing I've heard, and I really want to repeat because it makes a lot of sense, is, well, first off, data is a commodity. I'm sure everyone has heard that. Data is the new oil, etc. Time working with, traditional commodities. For example, a box of mangoes. A mango is a commodity. But data is different. And when we think about the digital realm, our thoughts and our ideas of the past have to really be adjusted. Because, for example, yes, data is a commodity. But unlike a mango, with data, once you use it, it increases in value. Let's think about what that means. When I consume a mango, I am left with maybe the mango seed, maybe some skin. The point is I have less than the original mango that I had. When I consume and use some data, that data is still available as it was to be consumed by someone else, so it's not that I have less. And if I add value to it, there's actually something more I'm bringing to the table. And what you find with all of this data that we're talking about is that value increases with usage. So we need to get more data out there, we need to use and consume more data, and this will just grow the pie for all of us. So this is what brought me to the table in terms of the government of Jamaica's open data portal, and I encourage a lot more publishing of open data. But open data really represents maybe the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the volume and amount of data that's out there and the opportunities for data out there. So we are supposed to be talking about data accessibility, and what that means is it's something that can be quantified or measured. It's the ease of access or availability of this data. So how easy is this to use? For example, if Ministry A publishes a set of licensees or let's say mango trees in St. Thomas, there's the data for all the mango trees in St. Thomas, right? If they publish this as a PDF, it's accessible, people can read it. Okay, there are 3 mango trees right here. But if they publish it in an Excel format, it's more accessible. It's more accessible because information, plug it straight into a computer and manipulate it a lot more easily than if all I had was a PDF. And I'll go a step further, because to use data in an Excel format means I need Microsoft Excel, which costs money. I need a license in order to access that data. So the format of the data is what's core to think about here. And if I publish the same information in an open format, it's even more accessible, because now I no longer require Excel to use it. I can do it freely, right? So these are things that we need to think through as we look at data. Data portal, or another big factor when you think about data accessibility, is also what they call you have a concept of clean data. Now, any data scientist will tell you maybe 70% of a data scientist's time is spent cleaning up data. It's not having these amazing moments of insight, really painstakingly going through and correcting incorrect records, so to speak, right? I don't really believe in dirty data. All information is valuable. But the truth is, the utility, and going back to the accessibility of the data, the quality of data. If someone is using a manual form to fill out data, let's say we collect a bunch of data that's filled out in pencil and, with a pencil, there's a lot of room for error. And data cleaning is basically the process of rectifying some of that. It becomes a lot more easier for data scientists to process if everything is as we expected, right? If St. Elizabeth is spelled the same way throughout this data set. If it changes, then your analysis is going to be off, right? So that's another important factor when you're thinking about data, right? Data cleaning. So yes, we're all a part of this information economy, and there are amazing opportunities out there. With Farm Credibly goes into our use of data. As we probably know, everyone's personal use data, many people's personal use data is used by big IT companies to generate a profit for them. What I'm trying to look at as Farm Credibly is turning that model on its head and saying, why don't we use this? Why can't we use our personal information to enrich ourselves, right? Not enrich another company, but how can our personal information be used to enrich ourselves? So in focusing on access to finance in agriculture, data protection and data privacy is extremely useful. And I'd like everyone in this room to pay attention to Jamaica, the government of Jamaica's initiative to protect information for our citizens, right? There's a Data Protection Act that's being tabled, debated, and everyone should really be a part of the conversation. So I'll just end on the note that, blockchain technology was mentioned earlier. This is really an evolution on how we store and think of data management, and it's a side of technology that we're extremely attracted to because of its utility in how we share, but also retain privacy and ownership over our data. So thanks. Please feel free to reach out and visit us online at farmcredibly.com.
All right, so our final speaker, our final panelist is Christopher Howe, and I imagine he's going to take the private sector perspective on this. Let's see.
Data. It can be found in our archives of our history. Data is controlling our every move and our decisions today. Data, ladies and gentlemen, is our future. Just a minute. Let me just take the time to thank you for inviting me to this panel. I'm very honored to be among scientists and leaders in data. So, I'm saying thank you for welcoming me to this, to be a panelist on this discussion. I feel honored. So we're talking about data and its accessibility. One of the questions I wanted to raise, data accessibility and data availability concepts. They are two different terms, but in my analysis, I strongly believe that the two can't exist. None can exist without the other. They're really two sides of the same coin. The image depicted on display right now, I borrowed this image from the World Economic Forum. And looking at it, you get, it's an image of an eye. And what does it represent? It represents that visibility of data. You can data is linked in every aspect of our lives. So back to the question that I asked earlier. Is it two different concepts? Data availability. I believe that the data first has to be available for you to make it accessible. So I broke it down into three different aspects of data management, because I'm coming to you from a data management standpoint. So we're going to be looking at resilience of the data, redundancy, and recoverability of this data. One of the solutions that have been made available, and that's what I'll be focusing on mainly, is the next generation of data availability solution, the VIM availability technology. So when we speak of redundancy, we're going to be looking at a two-tiered approach to data redundancy. One is to eliminate the redundant data, and two, to maintain the integrity of the data whilst preserving several copies, preferably across different geographical locations. Resilience speaks to the security of the data because it's paramount, and as such, an aggressive approach has to be taken to handling the numerous threats that await your data. Simultaneously, the ability to recover quickly in the face of a disaster, whether natural or man-made, thereby fostering minimal disruption to your operations. Then we're going to be looking at the recoverability, which this is what really is the core of any organization. You want to know that your data, wherever it is, it's recoverable. And we're going to be looking at recovery point and data resilience. We're living in an environment where everything is really moving, everything has become virtual. Virtual servers, virtual machines, but we still encounter physical machines in the industry. So VIM has developed a mechanism to secure both virtual environments and physical environments. built-in deduplication and compression mechanisms, built-in security and encryption. Because when you look at moving your data, whether within your organization or moving your data to the cloud, encryption that infrastructure and process. Okay, resilience of the data. Resilient file system and the real-time monitoring of your data to sustain integrity and backup. Getting alerts too for a single block of corruption. So you want to be able to identify any corruption in your data just to make sure maintain. And Veeam specializes in that. How does Veeam accomplish this? When you take your data, your block of data, Veeam takes that original data and the next time it tries to secure that, reads the change blocks and move those blocks only, thereby reducing the redundancy of your data. Okay, this picture represents that. Then when we speak about redundancy, we speak about the replication of your data as well. Now, you can imagine that a lot of information is provided in the banking sector. You want to be sure that your data have access to whatever service that institution offers you. So with Veeam, Veeam provides that replication of your data from a storage level. We're now moving towards having services in the cloud. What Veeam offers you, you have your data locally, and you have for compliance reasons, you have to archive your data. What Veeam does, it takes that older data that has to be compliant and can send it to different storage mechanisms. So, thereby in that objective. Recoverability. You want to be able, if you lose your site, you want to know that you can recover to another infrastructure, or in this case, recover in the cloud. Veeam offers that flexibility, which with a one click, you can recover directly from your data storage into the cloud and have your VMs up, your machines up and running. Okay, this is one of my favorite aspects of the data recoverability, instant recovery. So you imagine you're at work, your server goes down, and that is a public-facing server. You want to know that that machine can be available instantaneously. Veeam takes that data that you have backed up in your storage, mounts it, and presents it to another infrastructure straight from the backup, and make it available in less than 15 minutes. So that's one of the revolution in making the data accessible. And then there's a talk of the failover mechanism. Your entire site is being replicated to another site. You want to ensure that if this site goes down, none of your data is misplaced or lost. You want to know that when the system come up on the other side, you can have access to that very same data, and Veeam allows this mechanism. But what happens when you move to that primary site? Veeam thought of that as well. So it's just the flexibility of moving your data around. Reliability and flexibility of managing your data. That was a talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. Now, after all of that information. I'm sure you have quite a number of questions for the panelists. I'm going to take moderator's privilege and ask the first question. With all that is happening, with all of this wealth of data and so on, how does one manage it in such a way that it continues to be vital and useful and not overwhelming?
Mr. Moderator, could you refine your question, please?
Certainly, ma'am, and I should have known that would have been coming from you, Dr. Jones. So the real crux of the matter is the data can be very useful, and it's so pervasive, and if one is not careful, you can find yourself being overwhelmed by it, so you don't get the benefits from it because of the lack of proper management. For managing the data in such a way that you can get the best use from it.
Okay. All right. So I will share my personal, what I use personally. So I'm not a social media person, surprisingly. So one of the ways you can manage to not get overwhelmed is to just focus on what your particular goals or what your particular objectives are. So I make sure that my digital footprint is not all over the place. I only use the apps, I only use the programs that I really need, whether it's for my job or for, to share with family and friends. And then of course, you also want to make sure that you have the right protection on your computers. You're not basically going to sites that you're not supposed to be going to, or if you're browsing on a public computer, you use a VPN or you use incognito on Google Chrome. So that's one of the ways. And then just being responsible. So one of the reasons why I limit my social media usage is because I think, social media is one of those things that, you can get reckless with. So, you won't find me doing a lot of random posts and uploads, images, you won't see me, oh, I'm on fromage, here's a picture of my, wrong with that, but I think that it being responsive, if we're all going to be sharing in this global space, we have to take personal responsibility, sharing, posting recklessly. So that's one of the ways we can kind of manage our data and digital footprint.
Thank you. All right, so the floor is now open for questions, and okay, so I see a hand over there. You can purchase. Okay, he doesn't want the mic.
What is the connection, the connectivity with the internet providers? Because we don't have substantial internet services outside of Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine. The public libraries are not service. So I congratulate you on your launch, etc. But what is being done to upgrade the internet service throughout the entire country so we can have proper broadband service? And my next question is, storing data in the cloud. Who has jurisdictional oversight when you migrate to the cloud? Because there are a lot of, one of the things, one of the presentation in the first slide is the political issue. And so it begs the question, who has jurisdictional oversight when you migrate to the cloud? I am not so enthusiastic about migrating anywhere other than to go to a foreign country to learn how to interact with other persons. But to store data, to store vital information. We already have a scenario where North America. So for us to communicate, we have to upload to those North American satellites, download back to us. So it's not all that great on corridor, you know, for us to talk about cloud migration and all of that, because the Internet of Things, because we don't own these spaces. So address those matters for me.
Okay, thank you for that question, or those questions rather. I am Otis Osborne, the chairman of Society Jamaica. Now, one of our objectives is to every sector, every citizen in Jamaica can access the internet. So we will be initiating projects where networks that are sustainable, for one, and also widespread, meaning everyone can have access. Some wireless technology, but we will definitely get it done. And of course, we won't be approaching this alone. We will be lobbying the internet, the service providers, for example, like Flow and Digicel. I know for one that Minister Williams have already brought them to task about the downtimes in internet access or service, right? Internet Society will also be lobbying for improvements in service, and also not in the quality, only in the quality of service, but in more widespread access that is not expensive, right? As well, because I know that cost is also one of the factors that prevents users from accessing the service. On the issue of moving to the cloud, well, it all depends on the government policies that are in place. I know depending on the data is stored, then the government may have some leverage over the data because of the type of systems that they have in place. For example, if it's being stored on Russian servers, or depending on the servers that they use, because the National Security Agency, for example, because, you know, they talk about terrorism and so forth, they monitor. They usually ask for monitoring of this data that is traveling over the internet. So we can have control over our own data, yes, but it all depends on the government policies that are in place. If you take a look at China, for example, so you must know, as a sourcing the right provider for storing your data. Okay? For one, I know you're a bit more, you feel more secure using WhatsApp, for example, because now they're using end-to-end encryption. Okay? So it cannot be read, it cannot be intercepted and read. So your messages currently can't be intercepted and read because of the end-to-end encryption. So you must know what you are doing and what services you are using. Okay? I'll now hand over to the panelists to speak about owning your data.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, both are really good questions. I'm more at liberty to speak on the second one. So these were good points. Way that we can try to keep our information secure and make sure that only the people we want to access it can access it. This goes back to a point I made earlier around our Data Protection Act. Now, your concerns are very valid and need to be voiced so that the government can hear us, because there is a Data Protection Act that can take care of some of this from a regulatory perspective. And where a lot of this is coming from has been pioneered in Europe, for example, who realized a lot of the citizens in Europe's information was sitting outside of Europe and being monetized by corporations that are not European. And to address this, they drafted and enacted what they call the GDPR. I think it's the General Data Protection Regulation or something like that, right? And our regulation will likely take some of the concepts of that and apply it to our case. But some of the rules that are set out in a European requests it from any service, they have to delete all of that person's information forever, right? One problem with Facebook, for example, is that even if I say I want an account, that just means I'm hiding my account from myself. The data is still out there and it's still being used and it's still being sold, right? So let's not fool ourselves. Let's also not fool ourselves that in terms of what this concept, cloud is a buzzword, and what it really means is information sitting on somebody else's computer or a computer somewhere else. That's what cloud means. But even before you get to cloud, there's a lot of, someone mentioned NSA earlier, for example, and there's that are on us as a small island state. So, China and the US, for example, are almost at odds around, and what's at the heart of it is data. For example, Huawei creates routers through which all of our information travels. And the suspicion that the US has is that they will tap into this as a resource and pull our information without our permission. And that's a real concern. Why do they have this concern? Because they've been doing the same thing for for a long time now, right? So these are real concerns, and our best bet at doing something about it is to at least start with some legislation that can protect us as citizens. So we need to understand what's in these spaces and be a part of the conversation.
All right, and Mr. ISOC himself is here, Shernon. He wants to add a little bit to that. So.
Okay, hello to all. My name is Shonon Osepa. I'm the Manager, Regional Affairs for Internet Society for Latin America and the Caribbean. I have a question. First of all, thank you very much for the presentation regarding data. So a lot of organizations are using our data and they're making a lot of money with it. So what is wrong with us in the region that we cannot make money with our own data? Do you have some suggestion on that?
Preston.
I don't think that there's anything fundamentally wrong. I think this whole data revolution, similar to what was said by the other two speakers, is for us new on a number of levels. We were never very technologically savvy. We could use devices, we could do things, we weren't frightened of them, but we didn't embed them in all our systems of interaction within the societies, whereas in developed countries, they use them very much to the max, you know. And I think there is some room for growth there. There are side effects also. But I think one of the biggest changes or challenges for us in doing it is not to make the same mistakes that others made when they used it, to learn from their mistakes, the good and the bad. That is in and of itself is very difficult to do. Humans are we don't learn from any mistake other than our own, even though we can tell you about why he shouldn't have done it. But I think we will have to move forward. We cannot ignore the world around us. It is more integrated. Everybody catches a piece of something. And therefore, it is important for us, A, to look at what is happening and to participate fully in all the levels. The questions you asked were exactly the questions that other countries, individuals asked and pushed their governments and their bodies to respond to. We haven't really done that from the grassroots level. Not from the communities who are the users. That's where the wealth resides, eh? And the more that you organize and start to, you know, don't be so afraid of it. It's a brand new world, but there's good and bad as is everywhere. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned from others. Therefore, we should start those conversations and move quickly.
All right. I think, yes, the gentleman there has a question. And then, Michael, okay, you're next.
It's a question and it's also a comment, because I've been to these so-called data conferences. Why don't we just call it bank accounts or books or movies or personal correspondence? Use this word data, and it's such a broad word. Obviously, when we're treating with my bank account versus, let's say, the NCB's bank account, is a completely different issue. When we're talking about books, which I pick up from one of the book companies, I don't want to mention anyone, it's a completely different issue. So why don't we talk about the specifics of that, rather than the sort of big word of data, which to the average person means, I don't know that they know what it means. The other thing I have here is when you say about the cloud, it's not actually a cloud, it's somewhere. So let us get down to the facts. It's not on the, you know, the rain that we just rained there and it's now crashed. It's on somebody's bank account somewhere, and we don't know where. Frankly, I don't think we know where. The final thing is you talked about learning from mistakes. The simple fact is that we have learned from mistakes to, in fact, complex the problem, not to simplify the problem. We've learned from somebody's mistakes to make it more and more confusing and more. You think all this hacking was from somebody else's mistakes, and said, oh, let's use that for my benefit and my purpose. So I think there's a whole lot of things that need to be cleaned up so that we get this whole act together, or the whole concept of the internet will in fact fall into some sort of disregard, disrepair, disinterest. It might or might not, you know, it's a difficult equation. But we do need a lot of tidy up. And we need to be really clear when we start talking about data, exactly what we're talking about. Thank you.
It's a comment or a question? So, it's a comment, right? All right. So a question from across there.
So I have a comment and a question. Someone said that Jamaicans have not actively engaged with technology, innovation, cyber issues, but I think that it's just that we haven't developed the culture. And I think Jamaicans are ingenious and can do anything. And I think that one of the utility of this field could be applied to crime solving, particularly when it comes to young people who are engaged in crimes like scamming and data theft and so on. Instead of just locking them up for however many years, you could actually put them in an institution and compel these skills and trade to be productively employed after they serve their time in incarceration. And I think that we just need to develop a culture at a young age so that our students can develop the tools and the skills to employ technology and information science. I have a question for the panel. Most people, when they're asked a question that they don't have a ready answer for, turn to the internet. And they presume that the information they derive from the internet is credible. And much of it is, but in reality, there are many institutions and companies that are set up just to put misinformation on the internet, and this includes governments for their own purposes. How do you address these issues?
Before the panelists take that question, this would be our last question or the final question for this session.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it. Why not? Okay, so first things first, again, from a personal experience, anytime you're researching anything, it's important to check the source. All right, and then cross-check sources. So if, let's say you're looking up mangoes, for example, don't just Google mangoes and the first website that pops up, you say, oh, this is what mangoes are, and so check, verify, cross-check. And then also another important thing is to go to experts. Right? So let's say you're researching mangoes and I discover my friend Veron here. Oh. More than likely his contact information is on that website, and I can reach out to him and say, hey Veron, I'm writing a research paper on mangoes, I'd like to learn more. Right? So it's important when you're doing research to not only use secondary sources but also use primary sources. Right? Speak to experts, speak to someone who's actually growing these mangoes and say, okay, do you have some time? I'd like to schedule. You're right in thinking that, yes, there is a lot of information out there, and it's very easy for people to give what's called disinformation. Important for us to take the initiative and take the responsibility and verify all our sources. And at the end of the day, research is a living document. All right. So we have in academia, we have what's called contribution to the literature, right? Because it doesn't end, it doesn't stop. So I might write something today, and you read it, and you say, oh, Jones wrote in 2019 this and that, but I found this evidence, this new evidence, and then someone might read what you wrote, and then they contribute. So it's like a living, breathing document. So it's not a matter of whether it's right or wrong, yes or no. It's more of finding new evidence and more facts to support your claims. So
one thing I want to close with this session with is that the Internet Society Jamaica has this initiative that will be going on. We'll be going on a island-wide training. Yes, island-wide training of school-age students on the proper use of the internet as well as using data. One of the things too is that learning what data is and learning that even a picture, their personal picture that they post on social media contains its information, and it contains a lot of data that persons may use against you, right? Including for job prospects. What many persons don't know is that currently employers actually visit your social media sites to learn about you before they engage your services. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have been having a riveting discussions on data. At this time, we want to thank the panelists for sharing their in-depth knowledge. You can give them a round of applause. And of course, you can also give yourself a round of applause for those good questions that you threw at the panelists. We're about to break for this session. As the can stand up. So we have some refreshments available. It's located in room 102. So we'll break for about 10 minutes and we'll resume at 3:10. So the session is now closed and we'll break for intermission and we resume at 3:10. So you can just get a quick bite and come back at 3:10.
And the marshals are outside, guys. So I know some of you might say this is a chance for me not to come back, but this evening we're going to have a more exciting session. So please our second panel session. While the moderator is grabbing up something to drink and eat, I'm just going to take over for now so that we can end on time. I know sluggish right now, yeah? Too much carbohydrate? All right, so this is the most exciting session ever. And blockchain technology and cybersecurity, how we can protect ourselves. So, now, there's no blockchain? I know, but there's blockchain here. And the person who's going to be doing the blockchain is Mr. Trevor Forrest. But right now, we're going to have Mr.
This session will be very, very interactive, and of course, we'll be diving into cybersecurity. We have at our center table, at our chief table, the panelists, and of course, Ms. Natalie Rose did a brief introduction, but we'll tell you a little bit more about these personnel. As for Mr. Trevor first, now is with more than 29 years of experience in the IT industry. Trevor's service is in the local ICT industry, and he has demonstrated our commitment to driving improved standards of ICT adoption across the private and public sector, where he has consulted on designs and evolution of ICT proposal and strategies, well known for evangelizing the adoption and use of open source technology across the public and private sector. So I'm sure Trevor will shed some light on his areas of expertise. So once again, Mr. Trevor Forrest. Now we also have Mr. Shernon Osepa, okay. So Mr. Osepa is a senior strategist. He's currently the manager on the regional affairs for Latin America and the Caribbean at the Internet Society. His area of interest are internet governance, cybersecurity, Internet of Things security, internet economy, development of SIDS and natural disaster migration strategies. So, of course, he'll also shed some light in his areas of expertise. Again, we have Mrs. Erica. Okay, so for Mrs. Simmons, she is the Executive Director of the Center of Digital Innovation and Advanced Manufacturing at the Caribbean Maritime University. This is a regional center for fourth industrial and revolutionary technologies such as adaptive manufacturing, industrial Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and AR, VR, patented inventor and expert on product life cycle development. She lives in Kingston, and she's a Jamaican, and she marries with 2 children. Also, we have Mr. Leonard Wedowitz. So, of course, we met Leonard earlier, and he's the director for the CompTIA in Latin America and the Caribbean. His focus is using CompTIA's global mission to develop skills development programs to address the global lack of skills in the IT world. And of course, CompTIA is the only global technology association. In addition to the panelists, we have, unfortunately, we haven't seen Miss Alison Cole. I guess she's not here as yet. But also, on your flyer, you should have Mr. Charles Douglas, but unfortunately, he couldn't make it today. So we have in our midst Mr. Warren Williams. Now, Mr. Warren Williams is the Deputy Superintendent, and he heads the Communication Department in the Communication and Forensic and Cybercrime Division at the Counterterrorism and Crime Investigation Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Of course, he's a trained radio frequency propagation specialist and investigations, as also cybersecurity, as well as cybersecurity. Mr. Williams holds various international certifications in digital forensic and has over 15 years of experience in the telecommunications and management and engineering. So of course he comes with a wealth of knowledge, and of course he'll shed some light on the forensic department. For today's session, or for this session, we'll have Mr. Lindell MacLeod. He'll be leading this discussion. Mr. Lindell MacLeod.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second panel discussion, where we'll be getting into Internet of Things and cybersecurity. Internet of Things is a paradigm which has taken ground in this era of modern computing. And the idea is that with having various things and objects, is that all things and objects will not just be able to communicate with each other, but to also cooperate for the common good. And so with all this electronic data being housed somewhere, then certainly there will be the need to protect some of this data, and so we also will have the challenges. To tell us more about this, our panelists have already been introduced to you, and I believe we could start in the order they're listed. So to give us his perspective on internet security and cybersecurity, shall we welcome Mr. Trevor Forrest.
All right, so I have a presentation, but I don't see anybody up there. So I don't know what's going on with that. Internet of Things at work. All right, so while I wait, while I wait for that presentation to come up, let me throw out a quick question, and some people are filing in. Can anybody in here hazard a guess how much data you create on a daily basis? I'll point to you, but how much data do you... Excellent. How much data do you think you generate on a daily basis nowadays? Show of hands. Sorry?
Personally.
No, generally. How much? No, you. An individual. And you're 1 gig beside me.
25 gig.
25 gig. Google not going to help you on this one. Back there. Yeah, man, you, man. 15 what? 15 gig. Any other guess? 1 gig? Okay. All right, so,
Yes, sorry, just to say that our panelists are each given 5 minutes to articulate sufficient time for questions. Thanks.
Right, so the answer to the question is 2.5 gigs approximately. 2.5 gigs. What, you mean the thing you saw a while ago? So 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. So in order to see it, that's a different discussion, as in to see what it looks like physically. But in general, nowadays a person generates about 2.5 gigabytes of data in various forms every day. All right. Now, what does that really mean? It means that there's a whole lot of data out there being created which means there's a lot of data stolen, right? So, what I want to do is contextualize the whole situation about data, link it to cybersecurity and cybercrime, and then try to give you an example of the role you play and will play in the proliferation of all of that. So, to start, since 2013, 14 billion data records have been breached at 69 records a second. So, by the time I'm finished with this presentation, over 40,000 records would have been breached or stolen. All right? Think about that for a second. And that is since 2013. And the trajectory is that it's exponentially ramping up. How so? So much so that in the first half of 2018, first 6 months of 2018, over 3 billion records have been breached or stolen. Well, that's radical, because before, where I said by the time I'm finished this presentation, 40-something thousand records will be stolen. At this rate, 7 million, almost 8 million records would have been breached or stolen at this rate. This is what's happening now. Yeah, staggering, right? And we're contributing to this because we're creating a lot of this data that is being used, viewed, and stolen. So how much does that cost us? And if you're here earlier, I'm speaking about the amount of money that has been reported lost in Jamaica. But globally, in 2016, this is what the numbers look like. Between 400 and 500 billion dollars worth of breaches and attacks and so on existed. So cybercrimes in general cost the world $500 billion in 2016. Anybody want to take a guess as to what it will cost us this year? Anyone? Sorry? Twice that amount. Okay, so that would be $1 trillion. Try 2 trillion. That's what it's going to cost us this year. That's what cybercrimes will cost globally this year. You want to hear something interesting? How much do you think it costed Jamaica in 2016? 1 million what? Jamaican dollars? Yeah. Try this. 100 million US dollars. Reported 2016. That's what it cost Jamaica. And it's not getting any better. All right? Let those numbers sink in for a little bit. So, we're taking questions after. Really like to stop at the time, so we'll take the questions after. So, 80 billion US dollars. What does that signify? That is how much money the world spent on cybercrimes in 2016, and as you heard the minister say, generally the average cost of a breach is $4 million. This is general between 3.8 and $4 billion, and that's the cost of a data breach. So every time there is a data breach that you hear of, when you hear about Yahoo and Experian and all of those, this is typically what one of those breaches costs. As it relates to what it costs countries, because this is the new way in which crime is done. Because I can now rob a bank from the comfort of my air-conditioned living room. Now I need to go to the bank and get no gun and mask and kick off door like what you see in the movies. Don't need it. Can sit down in my living room and do that. And as we move into that kind of era, it will affect our economies and the kinds of figures that we're talking about as a percentage of GDP. It does have an impact, right? So, how you guys actually contribute to this, right? So, my first thing is, how many people in here have a smartphone? You say, yeah, there are about a little over 2 billion smartphones currently floating around. Next year, and this figure is from 2016, 2017. Next year, you know how many smartphones will be? 5 billion. But that's not so bad, all right? But check this out. Anybody in here have an Echo at their home or a Fitbit? Smart fridge, them can, well, okay, let me not go with the fridge. All of these things contain and contribute to what they call IoT. So, put into perspective now is how many IoT kinds of devices are out there. Right, today, close over 15 billion. Tomorrow, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that we're now looking at an entirely new way in which cyber crimes and threats and so on can be perpetrated. Why? Because now, whereas in the past you had to create what they call botnets to do very interesting things. The number of computers compared to the number of mobile phones and IoT devices that will be floating out there pales in comparison. So these are new, what they call threat vectors for enterprising cyber criminals to do what they need to do. I tend to call them the new weapons of mass destruction because you guys are walking around with them. So am I. Because now these are the things that are going to be used to perpetrate crimes. Mobile phones connected to a network. Everybody is connected to a network and everybody is connected to a global network. You're these things. IoT devices, same thing. Right? And because they are now able to be used to I'm going to bounce through these quickly because I'm being told that my 10 minutes has been reduced to 5. So what I want to end with is a video. Into perspective, happening as it relates to Internet of Things and security and what it means to you. You're going to have to press the sound on this one. No sound? I want to start out from the top.
What's really unique in this situation is that the attackers are actually leveraging vulnerable devices that people are putting all over their homes. And the manufacturer taking these devices down, it makes it really easy for an attacker to take advantage of those vulnerabilities. Well, denial of service attacks certainly don't instill confidence, but at the same time, they don't necessarily cause data to be vulnerable.
Okay, so what that video was showing was a particular and very famous IoT attack called Mirai, which actually happened. It used over 100,000 IoT devices, and it caused all of these well-known internet service providers, sites, and so on to stop existing for almost a day. This is the kind of thing that we're going to start to face if we don't be more careful and are not made more aware of what it is that is going on and the kind of things that the technology that we're going to be using without a thought can actually do if not applied and secured in the right way. So I'm going to leave it here. I do have some of these emerging threats, but I'm sure you can ask those things as part of your question and answer. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Trevor Forrest. To go to DSP Warren Williams, who incidentally has a prior commitment, but we're grateful that he was able to such short notice. So we're going to invite DSP Williams to come forward and to give us the regulatory and law enforcement perspective.
All right, good afternoon to everyone. Wow, sounds like I'm alone in this room. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, we're here with people, all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my greatest pleasure to share with you my perspective of things. I don't think you want an easy job at all. As Trevor just said, it's not about guns and bullets anymore, but it's even worse. It's more that attackers are not only in Jamaica, but it's outside of our jurisdiction, which makes it even more difficult for us to find criminals. A lot of you who are learning the IT skills, wow, I wonder and I wish we have some regulation to control you guys. But we can't control your education. I'm a trade certified ethical to become certified ethical hackers, but what will make you not become unethical? All right, so I pose a question to you as the millennium comes to a close and there's a new century on the forefront. There are new challenges for us as law enforcement persons because we are seeing more and more crimes that we have never seen before in the traditional sphere of things. Traditional crimes are now being transformed into the digital space. Do I want the police to come and chase me down with guns and bullets when I can stay in the ambience of my bedroom and give the police some work to come and find you? A lot of you are using Tor browsers. You try to, remove your digital footprint, but I want to tell you, footprint and you can be tracked and caught. So be careful of how you use digital technology. Let me just ask you the question. When was the last time you check your account balance? When you withdraw or you use online banking, check. When was the last time you checked? Have you ever noticed that? You never noticed that. But look at the magnitude of things. If someone working $1 with ease. So these are some of the sophisticated things that are happening that you don't notice. And of course, persons are in moving funds across borders because just by the touch of a button, now we're moving into a cashless society. Now we're moving into the bitcoins and the virtual world. More and more, it means that it's going to be even more difficult for us to track. I was just coming from the US the other day, and now I realized that I took out my wad of money, and somebody just laughed at me. What are you doing with hard-earned money, cash? We don't use cash anymore. You have an app now called a Cash App. It's totally cashless. All I need to do, all my current money in the bank is in a binary form. So what I do when I go to the store to shop, I just bring up a QR code, they scan the QR code, and my account is debited. So that's even make it even more challenging for us as law enforcement personnel. So as technology evolves, and evolves on a rapid basis, as Trevor rightfully says, now existing is about 10 billion different digital devices. It is said that in the next 10 years, we will have 50 billion devices. It means that we'll have more data. It means that about almost 8 billion people in the world, at least 7 pieces of devices each of you will have. A smartwatch, a smartphone, a smart TV, a smart stove. Do we have smart stove yet? Just checking, right? But Jamaica here in St. Thomas, it means that as we get more and more into the Internet of Things, you will go to the supermarket now, and instead of using a cash, all you do, you just take up your items and walk out of the supermarket, and your account will be debited. Do you believe that is here? Indeed, it is here. Or you will be right here, and you have your smart refrigerator, your smart watch, the internet. So your smart refrigerator will now send a message to you and say, when you're coming home, you need to bring home some orange juice because we're out of orange juice. You believe it, sir? You need to hear the story about the smart TV. What do you know about the smart TV? Watching you, watching it. Do you hear that? Okay. So if you have it in your bedroom, move it from your... Right. So as we move into a digital era, wish I had time to scare you, because that is what I do when I present. I give you the reality, let you understand what is really out there, knowing that you use the news technology responsibly. My team. So education is the way to go to let you be a smarter user, to use your smart device, because as we move more and more into the digital age, it means that we are going to move more into cashless society, a more digital society, which means we'll have much more problems at hand. You're saying I have 0 minutes? That's for me? Oh, wow. 0 minutes is a lot. You need to put a 1 beside it. Digital is ones and zeros. All right, I wish I could talk more and more, but that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, DSP Williams. In light of the fact that DSP Williams may soon have to take his leave, are there any burning questions for DSP? A mic? Do we have a mic?
I just wanted to know to what extent will less products, say your regular size TV and so on, to what extent will those kind of products that weren't necessarily of the high-tech digital age, will they be able to function in the next 10 years or so? And can that one, like a medium back one, can that one watch you? I know it's some kind of, you know?
It is said
because
that
sometimes you'd want to hold on to your
well, you
stuff.
can keep your relics because it can't work again. In 2015, it is said that everything should be fully digital. We are 4 years ahead, 2019. I'm just coming from the States, and when I get a check, I don't have to join the line. I just use a app, take a picture, it's uploaded into my account. I just said we have Cash App, so if you're not moving with the time, that is why they say get a smartphone. If you have a dumb phone or a dumb TV, it can't work. Tube TV won't work again. So the ones you have now will become obsolete probably by TV. Don't put the box outside because you're encouraging the criminal to tell him that you have a smart TV in your house. Be careful. Can we do that? We volunteer a lot of information about ourselves, and that is one of the things we want to warn you not to do. We put a lot of information online about ourselves. You give the police a lot of problems. And of course, you talk about privacy, but you volunteer a lot of things. We go foreign tomorrow. I'm not going to be home for 7 days. You put it up on Facebook. I'm going to brush my teeth now. I'm leaving my house now. The criminal, that's what they want to see and hear. You volunteer that information and they capitalize on it, so you better be careful of how you use those devices.
Just to speak more directly to your question, Warren loves to scare people when he does these things. So, as it relates to the smart TVs, the ones that are watching you, they actually need something to watch you, like a camera. So it's not every smart TV that you go out there and smart TVs you buy, because a lot of them have cameras, some you see. And so on. Those televisions will continue to work. However, the government is on a path to what they call digital switchover, where certain older types of televisions in another couple of years will not be compatible with digital switchover. Has been in discussion for a very long time, but its implementation is still happening. So will still work. The question was if radios will work as well. Yes, they will. But once we achieve digital switchover, in a huge number of these TVs will not be able to work. Some of them will still work because you still have some their days are numbered as well, but a lot of them will still work. And you can be assured that some of those won't be watching you.
The kerosene oil refrigerator and the zinc TV. That won't work anymore. All right, you'll have to throw that out.
All right, we could take just one more question for the speaker. All right, well, 2 questions.
I want to tell you, you have to be careful with people like me in your midst. I have said I'm a certified ethical hacker.
My question is that in the US, you tend to have, in the news, you see a lot of cybercrimes being reported or hacks or so. my thing is, I mean, taking place in Jamaica, or is it that it's underreported? Because I know you'll watch the news and you'll see all the gun crimes and rape and stuff, but you don't see a lot of this sort of crime on the news.
All right, so we're in an era of scamming now. Scamming is not only in the West. Scamming is all over now. Because we can send you a message and tell you something that we know you like. You know, we're in a smart age, right? And when you click on it, it's a malicious code, which now turns on your smartphone web camera, turns on your key for economic growth and development, so you must use it. Indeed, a lot of crimes are underreported, and that is correct. Why? Because persons may not know just being embarrassed. There are their characters being defamed, they have been scammed foolishly, tell you that you win $1 million and you must pay over 100,000. And before you tell them to take the 100,000 out of the 1 million, you give them the 100,000. A lot of people have been caught, not space. Without you recognizing, you volunteer that information and use it back as a weapon against you. Do all kind of phishing. You open emails every day, an attachment. I know if I send you an email about your college or your alma mater, you're going to click on it, correct? But you do not know what's up. You may look like a normal Word document, but it's abnormal. It's something that turn on your keylogger. You don't know that it's there. I'm here to scare. Be aware.
If we have this problem with people knowing what we're doing without we telling them, you know, that sort of thing, why are we developing this type of equipment? Why not just stop it at the point where we have the old box TV and give you the old picture and it's beautiful? Why have we gone to the route of getting this built-in technology?
Well, maybe you'll say why we're not sleeping in rocks anymore. But we have to move on.
I wouldn't mind go back to the rock, you know.
Well, the new generation knew that. Every age is unique in its own time. So the rock age was good for them then. Now we are here, it's more problem for us. There are jobs for security personnel. If you want to do IT security, that's the booming career that you need to pay attention to. Because the more we enjoy using our smartphones and browsing and this, is the more problems we have to deal with. We are now with, so we don't have to go to use the botanical, what you call it, encyclopedia anymore. We just type and we get the answer. Brilliant age, and it's much better than when it was now. All right? Again.
All right, can we say thanks to DSP Warren Williams? All right, thank you, DSP. On this note, we'll invite Mr. Sherman Osepo, Regional Affairs Manager for
Inspector, right? Inspector Warren. Basically, you guys did cover everything that I wanted to say. So I did have a 200 slide, let's say, presentation. So I'm not going to bother you guys with that. I only would like to share with you one slide. Can I get a presentation, please? Upload it. No, it's the one with Shurna Nosepa, Internet Society. Just one slide I would like to share with you guys. Yes, let me go to the next slide. Over here. Over here. This would be a very good guideline for us to use, especially for policymakers and governments when they would like to address cybersecurity issues. Most of the times we are focusing on one area, but if you would like to address cybersecurity challenges, we need to look at it in a more holistic way. So let me just mention them briefly. The first one is what we call the securing the link. If you look at the internet, when it was developed back then, it didn't have any security mechanism embedded into it. So that is why, because it was developed in a community of trust, so you have people who did trust each other, there was no need for them to focus on security. So things have changed, of course. So if you look, what is the internet? The internet is basically networks interconnected. So we need to go from one network to the other. And to go from one network to the other, we use what we call a given route. And the internet is also the business of transporting, let's say, packets from one network to the other. And these packets can just be voice, video. If you don't protect what we call the link, remember back then, it didn't have any security mechanism embedded into it because security was not an issue. It is the same if I'm living on an island with my wife, for example, only the two of us living on that island. There is no need for me to put any, lock. It's the only two of us living there. But if I know if there is a possibility, if someone else can the island and also to our house, in order to protect storage, I will put a lock on the front door, right? So that's the same thing with the internet. It didn't have any security mechanism. So nowadays, we need to protect that to get that done. The second area is we are talking about internet, but if you don't have a telecommunication infrastructure in place, be it wired, wireless, satellite, whatever, you cannot have internet neither. So that is why we need to protect the telecommunication infrastructure. The third one is what we call protecting the internet itself. And when I'm talking about protecting Facebook, I'm not talking about Google, Twitter, and all these powerful applications. I'm talking about protecting what we call the domain name system itself. And if you look at the internet, you have two key components. You have the names, for example, the domain names, trevor.com, that's a domain name. But you have also the routes to go from one network to the other. So when we're talking about protecting the internet infrastructure, we need to find ways how to protect the names. There are some technology out there that we can use, DNSSEC, for example. And to protect the routes, we can use RPKI. So I'm just mentioning them in order for you guys to know that. Of course, we're using computers. You can protect them with passport, all kinds of other stuff. We have been discussing about data a lot. Your data can be protected with encryption as well. Securing identity. For example, what people are posting on social media. We need to protect our identity, digital identity. Whenever you go to the internet, you leave traces behind, so you need to be very not need to post all kind of stuff that people would know where you are, because you're just making the life of all these hackers much more easier. And the last part that we need to protect is what we call essential services. Each country should decide the essential services in their country. For example, if you are in, let's say, Cayman Island, where they focus a lot on financial sector, then you need to find ways how to protect all these infrastructure. If you're more oil and gas, you need to find ways how to do that. So this guideline can be used, especially when you're drafting, let's say, national cybersecurity strategy. If you don't have one of these 8 or incorporated into that strategy, in one way or the other, your strategy is not complete. So that's basically what I want to leave with you. We already did discuss all the threats there, so there's no need for me to do that. But let's look at cybersecurity in a more holistic way. Not just protecting data and leave the other wide open. We need to look at it in a very Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shernon. We go to our next presenter, Ms. Erica Simmons, the Executive Director of the Center for Digital Innovation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here today to talk about a topic that I am always very excited about. And we're going to talk about Industry 4.0, Internet of Things and society. And we've sort of touched on that today. We're talking about a lot of technical items, but I'd like to come and let you know that I think about a lot of this technology from a sociologist perspective. I went to Mandeville, proud Manchesterian, and left here, went to the university to study sociology because I was always interested in society and I wanted to make a big impact there. But after I graduated from university, I got corrupted and entered the IT industry, the technology industry. Worked for a large company called Oracle Corporation. They do a lot of databases, so I got to learn all about databases. And back then, the largest database that they had was a 1 terabyte database. So to be talking about gigs now is really an amazing thing. I spent 15 years at Siemens AG, the German electrical company, electronics company, and I did a lot of great things working with software for engineering and manufacturing. So worked with a lot of companies that were using the tool sets from Siemens to be able to create a lot of these devices that you're talking about, a lot of these Internet of Things devices. And when I was there about 10 years ago, I learned that there was this time, we were in this age called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So raise your hand if you've heard of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Wonderful. Okay. I still get a couple of hands up, and that's great. But I learned that years, and we have been in the Fourth Industrial Revolution for at least 10 years. This guy, Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, defined this age as an age that was going the other big thing is this a lot of wealth, and it was going to be the largest wealth creation opportunity. So anytime, as a developing nation, of course, when we start to hear about wealth being generated, we want to pay attention. And he talked about this wealth coming from some essential manufacturing at CMU. We're really studying these technologies from really a more industrial perspective. So we study the industrial Internet of Things. So we're talking a lot here about commercial and probably personal aspects of cybersecurity. But the Caribbean Maritime University is looking at industrial cybersecurity. Most of the machines that are running a lot of our mission critical infrastructure, like our grid, our water systems, systems to control the internet are controlled. Anybody heard of a programmable logic controller? PLC? A PLC is the same thing as an industrial computer. Those types of systems use. And at the Maritime University, what we're trying to do, of course, is to learn everything that we can about these new systems and learn about how we protect them. Back in 2010, when I was it was reported that there was a virus that was introduced into the control room in Iran in a nuclear facility. And that reactor was spun out of control. It blew up. So from how to protect the critical infrastructure of our country. So I wanted to thank you for bringing up those other aspects of cybersecurity that, you know, we're also trying to manage. So industrial Internet of Things, big data and analytics are some of the areas that we're focused on at the CMU, and you should be focused on too as our and then these are the technologies that have been forecasted to generate this wealth. But I wanted to talk about things from a different perspective today because we've had all these smart guys talking about all of this tech and all of that. That's great. But I want to take your attention to a more sociological perspective of this information. And it was touched on today by a lot of people who talked about that had the question earlier today. We're going to start to see a lot of data and information getting generated by these systems, and we must be concerned with where the data lives, who owns them, and what rights do they have to the information. What I'm really excited about for us here in Jamaica, and having lived in a big country where we have over 400 million people, is that when we control our destiny. So every citizen has a right to say what you feel, how our information should be secured, what protections do we have as a citizen of Jamaica. So I want you all to all get in on this discussion, weigh in. It's your voice. This is our country, so you have to give in and do that. But I wanted to bring another kind of example to show you about where this is not about phones and cars and all of this. But the industrial internet and the Internet of Things is coming to clothing, right? So this is a picture of all of these different sensors that are currently being embedded in clothing. And if you can think about your clothes, you could probably be collecting information on 10 or 11 dimensions. So let's take a look at what they're currently. So I'm going to turn around because I can't read. Or I have my slides here. My assistant printed them out. Let me show you what they're doing. So on the left-hand side, you have two youngsters. They're in school. And what we're seeing down on his shoes are embedded geolocation sensors in his shoes. So we get to know where the kids are going around in the classroom. There are also stress detection sensors embedded in the clothes. So we can determine whether or not this guy's stressed out, whether or not problems for the day. Body posture censoring. How many moms and dads out there telling your kids to sit up all the time? Well, we're going to have potential information about your person's posture, right? On the right-hand side, we have a couple of firefighters. And what we're collecting information on is, of course, external high temperature sensors, so we can determine their collecting information on biometrics information. We're collecting information on toxic gases. So when we look at the person, right, and the person, your clothing is going to be turning into an Internet of Things device that can capture information. So when we look at these two scenarios, maybe it'll be easy for you to say, who owns the data of the firefighters? Who would own that information? Would that be something that that company owns, that firefighting squadron or whatever, right? But who owns the information about our children? So it's a very important question in the ethics that we have to think about going forward. And I'm very excited to be a part of the IEEE organization. It's also a worldwide organization focused on technology. On several college campuses. The University of Technology, and we also have one over at the Caribbean Maritime University. But in the IEEE organization, I'm a part of this group that is called the Society on the Social Implications of Technology. And we're all thinking about, you know, what's going to happen with technology and what kind of social ramifications do we have. And here's a couple of tenets that they have, which I truly believe in from a sociology perspective. I'm also a capitalist as well, but I'm always thinking about the people in terms of how we generate wealth for our country. But technology is a fundamental resource for human development. It's just like a utility, and everyone should have access to that. So when the gentleman says that we have places here in Jamaica that doesn't have access to the internet, it should be a problem for all of us, right? Our entire small little country should be covered in the internet. I work with a lot of teachers out there that are trying to become a part of the digital age, and they can't access fully the internet because they don't have that capability at their schools. So at a minimum, we should try to make sure that every school in Jamaica has access to the internet for the development of our children going forward. Technology talked about a lot of bad things here and a lot of bad things using technology to solve disease problems, cure cancer, solve crime. So that's one of the tenets. Totally believe that technology should be used for the good of humanity and the planet. But what we do know is technology and technological change has intended and unintended consequences. So there has to be people thinking about all of these unintended consequences of technology, all the dangers that can happen out there. And then really, when we talk about policing and who is ethically responsible for this information, how do we answer development of technology? Should we be controlling the development of technology, or should we have frameworks that would help us to stay inside of the lines, right? We don't want people coloring too outside of the lines using technology. So the 5 pillars that we are talking about in this society, and I'm constantly thinking about it when I'm doing my R&D work on artificial intelligence and doing the R&D work on Internet of Things and augmented and virtual reality, we are definitely 5 pillars of technology up and always on our the top of our heads, which the Society on Social Implications of Technology is putting forth. We want to have technology for sustainable development and humanitarian technology. So you young people out here that are wanting to look at this technology, I implore you to see how we can use it to enhance humanity. Technology is used with ethical considerations, human values, and we want to make sure that technology is benefiting everybody, technology for all. And we want future societal impacts of technology to be advanced. And we want to make sure that we're using technology to protect our planet. I know there are people wanting to leave this planet. We have a lot of people here, so we have to figure out how we're going to use technology to definitely save our planet. And when we look at this organization in IEEE, there's a lot of things that touch this. We have looking at emerging technologies. We're looking at how STEM education needs to come online. How are AI and robotics going to be used ethically? What are the laws and the regulations? So I'm very proud of that we here at Jamaica are looking to protect the citizens. I'm hoping that the policy, when it does get implemented, will have more protections for us here in Jamaica than they do perhaps in the United States about keeping data and information. So I just wanted to share a little bit about the ethics and the ethics of technology. I work and we're doing a lot of R&D and we're trying to make sure we can deploy this technology, but there needs to be a body of us, the ethical considerations, and to make sure that this technology is always used for the good.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Erica Simmons. Further from Mr. Leonard Wadewitz, hope I got that right, CompTIA Director, Latin America and the Caribbean.
Hey, it's my turn. Thanks for hanging around. No, I don't have a presentation, thank you. I can wing it. Everything you've heard, you know, to wrap it all together, you know, half of us are scared, the other half of us are impressed with what the internet has brought around. How many of you are students, IT students here? How many would call yourself programmers? How many of you would say you're studying like infrastructure support or doing IT Okay, all right. Just trying to understand the audience. What we're all coming down to is all of this stuff about cybersecurity and laws and all these things comes down to having the people who can make this happen. It comes down to the opportunities for you guys as new really sexy opportunities tomorrow already. You don't have to, you've got some great opportunities, and what you need is a plan. And there, you know, there's a lot of misinformation on how to prepare, how to educate. Everyone wants to jump to things that sound really sexy without having the appropriate basis. For example, calculus and quantum mechanics is really sexy to me. But if I can't do add, subtraction, multiplication, division, am I going to do? Let's get logical. And so that's where it comes down to. You have a plan. How many of you are registered IT students here at UCC? Okay, that's why I'm here. Okay, I'm here because I talked with UCC, and actually UCC has over the years, I'm just going to say it, not in a negative way, but kind of had on and off CompTIA programs. And the reason I'm here today is to kick off what I hope will be an on program for a long period of time. This is a plan. CompTIA is the only skills development plan for IT infrastructure support professionals. That's product neutral, and that's going to prepare you to work in any IT environment anywhere in the world. Does anyone know that you're actually studying for example, the CompTIA A+ certification? Anybody know that? Yeah? Who said yeah? Nobody? Yeah. So you get A+, you're qualified to work in any data center anywhere in the world. You're qualified to work in any IT department anywhere in the world. You could go knock on the door of the National Police. You're qualified to work there. Next step, Network Plus, Linux Plus, and then CompTIA has a whole cybersecurity path. It's the only cybersecurity skills development path in the world. Yeah. Very selective programs out there that sound really sexy, you know, white hat, ethical hackers, and all those things. It's not a plan. It's only one thing. It's only one product. It's not a plan. And so many people spend so much money and time and accomplished nothing because they didn't have or took a class in something that cost them a lot of money. An advantage that you have here at UCC is you can make a wise investment. Get your A+. When you get your A+, go get a job. I'm not saying quit UCC. I'm saying go get a job, because you can get a job. Then go get your Network Plus. Then go get your Linux Plus. Then go get your Security Plus. Get the certifications. They're global measurements of your knowledge. Taking a course isn't a certification. Reading a book isn't a certification. Those aren't measurements. Get certified. And actually, get certified in something. Get certified. And you do that, and your careers are going to move forward. So I highly encourage you, talk to Natalie Rose and Mr. Osborne. Talk to them about the plan. You're more than welcome to contact me, Leonard Wadowitz. I'm the only one in the world on LinkedIn, I guarantee you. With a name like that, who would marry me? But somebody did. But you know what? Work the plan. You work the plan. So congratulations on sticking it out. Congratulations on being students here. And please connect with me. Be happy to work with you moving forward with your careers.
Okay, thanks. At this point, we'll take a question or two for our panelists. Any questions for Trevor or for Shannon in relation to their presentation, or probably any wider IoT cybersecurity issues?
It's one of the things I wanted to know also. How do you recognize the friendly emails, like as the gentleman alluded to earlier, regarding like one that would come from your alma mater or something like that? How can you recognize that they're fake?
Trevor, you want to take that? Or, yeah? How would you recognize the from friends or foes?
Oh, well, there are a couple of ways you can verify. One is, if in doubt, don't open it. But two, if it appears to come from somebody you know, before you open it, call them. Ask them if they sent you something. Many times, what you time for the eye for it is, you will notice small changes in spelling, small discrepancies in the domain that it's coming from. Things you kind of have to always keep an eye open for that. But when in doubt, call and try not to click any links that are embedded in emails. And really and truly, given the way phishing emails have been constructed nowadays, if you don't need to open it in your inbox, don't even open it, just delete it. Because a lot of the phishing emails are quite sophisticated enough to only require you to open it. You don't need to click any links, you don't need to do anything but simply open it up. So some of you in your emails, you might have the viewing pane on one side and the inbox pane on the other side. You, depending on the email client that you use, you may want to be mindful of that. So that's kind of a couple of the things that you can do to mitigate some of those situations from popping up.
All right, thanks. Thanks very much. Hope that answers your question. Question up the top here.
Good evening. Can you expound for me on the difference between a link that carries a HTTPS connection as opposed to a HTTP?
Okay, so HTTP, I've seen that when you go into your browsers and you you know, it's a little padlock beside one. And all right, so HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer. That is what is viewed as the most basic and insecure way by which information is displayed in your browser. Information from servers to your browser based on a request that you make. The thing with that, and as was said earlier, was when the internet was created, it was based on this trust regime. And everybody was just happy, oh great, we can exchange information across thousands of miles. And then somebody else got nefarious and started to take advantage of that. This is the secure version of HTTP, in which the communication between your browser and whatever server you're making a request from is now secure and encrypted. Right? So that's the fundamental difference. So now what happens between your browser and that server is less susceptible to an interception by these nefarious people when you have HTTPS versus HTTP. And just to let you know, browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and so on, what they've done now is they've made it very obvious with visual cues for you to see when a site that you go to does not HTTPS enabled, because one of the things they're trying to ensure is that your experience is more secure, because there are a lot of characters out there doing some very interesting things with communication.
If you were studying CompTIA A+, that would be in there.
Let me just give a comment with respect to your question. Don't be fooled with the S, because you may have a secure connection to the hacker as well. So just be secure about that.
All right, thanks. Chairman, would that be it? All right, is there one more question?
Do the good old virus protection software, does that work anymore?
So, well, no. The virus protection software does what it says it will do. It protects you
from known
fundamentally from viruses. However, you have these packages that are now going beyond just protecting you against viruses. Viruses are simple things nowadays to protect against, but virus protection platforms have expanded their services. Now they're looking to protect you against malware, ransomware. They're looking to protect your experience while you're browsing the internet. So you'll see some of them with these things called like web shields and so on. They're also looking to protect your actual internet connection when you're using wireless. So you will go to an internet cafe and you just connect to the wireless. That's not a secure connection. So some of these packages now include what they call virtual private networks, VPNs, that protect that connection that you have between your computer and the Wi-Fi service in any one of these. So to say, does good old antivirus work? Good old antivirus works, but it's not about antivirus anymore. It's gone beyond that. So a lot of these packages, you'll always find them marked as an internet suite instead of just virus protection. But what they're trying to do now is take into consideration all the other threats that are a reality And they kind of include that as part of a suite of services. And so those are the ones you kind of want to look at, because the antivirus stuff is just a very small part of the kinds of threats that are out there.
Yes, Mike, you can buy a package.
Well, you download it from the internet, you buy it online. But yes, it is available, and the majority of companies that make this stuff, the majority of them have a package thing that has all of these things rolled up into it. So you kind of look for those, and you know, it's really take the pick.
All right, thanks very much. Last question, and then I hand over to Chairman.
Good evening. I've been a victim of hackers twice. Last year, I ordered some stuff on Amazon, which was like $50,000. And when I checked the bank, they couldn't find any trace or information. And in this year, I lost 1 terabyte of all my work from 5 years ago up until now. So I see that technology is rising. There's more phones, there's more cameras, there's smart everything. So what will happen 5 years from now? Hackers can see us from all angles. They're everywhere. What will we do then when you have so much control that we cannot hide or protect ourselves? What are we going to do then if the whole entire earth is being watched by hackers? They're everywhere, you have all full information of everything. I mean, you can have your phone in your hand and somebody is literally watching you at all times. So what will we do then if technology becomes so high that there is nowhere to hide any information or hiding yourself?
So I think everybody on the panel will take a stab at that one. You said what will happen then. Then was years ago, because that has been happening for a long time. What is happening today is that people are becoming more aware of it. And that is perhaps one of the most important things for you and for everybody, for all of us, is awareness. Because a lot of times people watch this stuff on TV and say, boy, I wonder if that could I really happen. So I think greater awareness, and the government through the CERT has been, you know, for the month of October, they do the National Cyber Awareness Month, and then throughout the year they I think the biggest thing for you and for all of us is to constantly ensure that we're aware about what is going on, take heed to some of the information that is put out there by government, and do your own research as well.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I will just add that you're in luck. The whole thing that drives the tech industry is this thing about innovation, right? And you had some brilliant young IT engineers in here earlier today. I feel very confident that we will come up with solutions. There will be innovations to protect us more in the future. I mean, it's just like trying to solve an illness that we have, right? They're doctors. Those are the doctors. Instill a society of innovation and thinking outside of the box. How we solve these problems, that a lot of them will be solved. Now it's a moving target, because once we solve, we have to keep going, right? Because these things, this industry is just changing very rapidly. So don't feel bad. Don't feel like this is a lost cause. I feel enough brilliance in the world to be able to create solutions to solve those problems.
Just one short comment. I do agree with what my colleagues said. Maybe you don't know, but this region, Caribbean region, is being used as a playing ground by a lot of hackers. This is where they come to get all their skills, and from here they go elsewhere. There are certain places that they don't go because they know that they deploy the NSSEC, for example. Just wide open. So we are making the life much more easier. So we would like to invite you guys, especially students, to join, start focusing on mailing list of what we call the Internet Engineering Task Force. This is the group where they develop all the internet-related standards. And we would like to get, let's say, new ideas, students from this region, from Caribbean and Latin America. It's mostly people from Asia, Europe. They are attending these events, they are giving a contribution, and we don't get, let's say, a feedback from what is happening in the Caribbean. So you can just go online, IATF, Internet Engineering Task Force .net, if I'm not mistaken. Write a mailing list and start giving your contribution. And there is you to get a fellowship to attend one of these events. So, but I think that's where you can start, and you can to build a more secure internet for the global community.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Yes, David, what?
This is a question for Erica. You mentioned in your presentation about the impact on people of the technology, and particularly robotics and the artificial intelligence that's coming to the workforce. You touched on it tangentially, but I didn't hear you speak specifically about the impact on the people who get displaced by that. I don't know if you did, but I have a question. The impact on people who get displaced by technology or automation or other forces that creates a cadre of people who feel disenfranchised can have huge political impact. For example, in the US, the loss of jobs to China and the automation, I believe, played a part in the election of Donald Trump, very nationalistic. And in the UK, the immigrants from Poland jobs, I think, led to the vote to Brexit, partially. So the question is, in Jamaica, with the advent of robotics and artificial intelligence, what can we do to head off that kind of a problem here in Jamaica?
Thank you for that question, and I always get that question when I talk about the future of work and where we need to be focused as a nation. So a lot of the menial things that are done related today in Jamaica that are moving items, you know, they're logistics people, but they're human logistics. They're moving things from one location to another. We have seen in this technology and the technology deployed to take care of those tasks are a lot more efficient. And at the end of the day, these big companies are really looking for economics. If they can do it faster, cheaper, better, they're going to do it. So we know that they're jobs. What they're currently forecasting is about 30% of the jobs that we're doing today will be obsoleted in a short time. Now, what are we going to do about that, right? I tell people, I still say that there's a lot of hope for humanity and humans in this picture. Our role will have to change. So instead of being the person moving the boxes from one location to the other, the robot will do it, and we will have to be the technicians for the robots. So we're going to have to develop a new skill set, Jamaica. I'm sorry, guys. As the world turns, we're going to have to develop new capabilities in troubleshooting and programming. All of the stuff that you guys are learning here at UCC will come into play. So I think it is natural from a social perspective to disruption in our marketplace. But as a society, we can begin to plan. Get our students focused on these technologies from a young age and starting to learn them. The people that are currently in industry, and we're seeing this at the Caribbean Maritime University as well, they will need to come and be retooled. There's going to be about 60 million net jobs after they've taken away the jobs that we're not going to have anymore and added jobs that will be added. And when I think about jobs being added. I think about economic development for our country, and we need to be focused on making sure that we're developing the skills of the future. We cannot be afraid of the future. This is coming, it's here, it's in a lot of countries. We just have to get prepared for it, and we need everybody, our society, our government, our academic institutions, our families, to get focused on the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you join me in saying thanks to our panelists? An informative session. At this point,
everyone. Professor Emeritus Robert Lancashire to give the vote of thanks, and then we'll close off our session by extending our appreciation to the panelists and those who participated in our event today.
I think if we were launching a ship, we'd have to smash up a bottle of champagne or something over it, and I'm not sure what you need to do with an Internet Society chapter. But certainly the idea of some champagne sounds like a good idea. Anyway, I think as a start, I think everybody who's managed to sit their way through the last few hours have been thoroughly impressed with how things can happen and the sorts of things that we should be doing. And this, I think, is a wonderful start for the society, and hopefully we'll have plenty more of these opportunities for people to come out and hear about some of the aspects of what the Internet Society is all about. Clearly there's a number of people that need to be recognized and mentioned, and first off, let me say thanks to the president of UCC who came and gave remarks at the. We were very thankful that she says that she is going to have an open door policy when it comes to the Internet Society, and certainly we need to follow up on that more often. Mr. Leonard Wolowitz, again, thank you. Good for sponsorship and for coming and presenting as well. And clearly this would not have happened without the support that we've had from UCC and from CompTIA. Looking through some of the speakers, I did pick up a few things, and there were a number of things that came out to me. Jogged me a little bit at the very end was, if we're all wearing clothing that can pick up our bad posture, are we going to have feet controls that send electric shock therapy? And that was one that jumped when I was slouching in my chair there. I was thinking, you know, this is not very good. And me going again. So that was another point that just hit me when the comment was made. But there are a number of things, and I think people will come away with all sorts of different aspects of some of the various talks. The pictures being all these speakers were for the afternoon, right? They weren't nicking out of work.
Yes, what some of you may not have known is that the Caribbean. So we are out there, and we just need your support now. Many of you society, you know, it is international, and you do get some benefits, training, and also opportunities to travel. Great things can and will happen with the Internet Society. I now invite Mr. Trevor Forrest to the podium to get his token of appreciation. Okay. Eric Simmons. The Christopher Paul. Thank you. Mr. Leonard Wadwitz. Thank you. Okay. All right, unfortunately, the other strategy. Oh. Thank you for visiting us in Jamaica, being here with us today. We have to get the others that meet early, so we have to get their token to them. Somehow, you know, we have to sweeten the deal, the relationship, the future relationship between yourself and the Internet Society of Jamaica.
Okay, thank you.
And there are some business cards there. You can get in touch with us if you need any further information.